This is the original podcast edition of The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton, now part of the complete Pirates of Wefravain series. The books are available as audiobooks, ebooks, and paperbacks. This podcast originally aired from 2010 to 2014. Stick around after the story for commentary from me, the author, more than a decade later. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers, a novel of pirates and Panamindorah. Written and narrated by Abigail Hilton. Book 1, Embers. Warning: this novel was intended for people who shop in the grown-up section of the bookstore. It is not intended for children or young teens. If you need to ask whether you will be offended, you probably will. Episode 2.
Hello, I'm Nathan Lowell, creator of the Golden Age of the Solar Clipper universe. You can find my books at podiobooks.com and on iTunes, but you didn't come here to listen to me. Previously, on the Cowry Catchers podcast, we met Gerard Holivar, a prince exiled for rashly marrying the court minstrel. Gerard has just been made captain of the temple police by Morchella, the priestess of the wyvern deities of the island kingdoms of Wefravain. Gerard has been in the temple sea watch for the past year, where he has not been getting along with his commanding officer, Silvio Lemire. Gerard is put in charge of interrogating the prisoners he recently captured. He elects to kill their leaders rather than torture them, a decision that further enrages Lemire. Gerard leaves Lemire fuming outside the cell door and goes to have a look at his new office.
Chapter 4. A Dead Shelt's List.
Masia Minor has been a thorn in the side of the High Priestess, time out of mind. It is the only place left in Wefravain where Xavier, Gazamel, Zeds, and other non-Grishnards are allowed to live in relative freedom. It is also thought to be a sanctuary for resistance pirates. Again and again, the Wyverns and their representative have sought to have the inhabitants of the island exterminated, but, ironically, Grishnards themselves have prevented the Wyverns from doing so. The situation is a political minefield. Masia Minor is a holding of Masia Major, arguably the most powerful of the 6 great island kingdoms. For ages, perhaps since the dawning of Grishnard dominance on the islands, the kings of Masia Major have maintained Masia Minor as a game park. Like their griffin mounts, Grishnards take a deep pleasure in hunting. This pleasure is not totally sated in the tame killing of captive fawns. Wealthy Grishnards will pay a high price to hunt free, armed fawns in a natural environment. The risks make the venture all the more exciting. Grishnards disappear every year while hunting on Masia Minor, but this never seems to stop the flow of traffic, and the island is a source of both income and prestige for the kings of Masia Major. Gwaine, The Truth About Wyverns.
Gerard followed the guard back through the cells to the entrance of the dungeons. He wasn't sure he'd done the right thing with the prisoners, but he didn't think he had the stomach for Silvio's style of interrogation. His subordinates would have been called in, Shelts who did not know him, and it would not be wise to appear weak in front of them. The police were often dredged from the lowest reaches of society, and might decide to dislike him for his background, just as Lemire seemed to. Besides, Gerard knew that Shelts lied under torture. He had an idea that intimidation, if handled correctly, would produce better results. The guard unlocked a door in the antechamber of the dungeons.
This is the traditional office of the captain of temple police. If it is not suitable, other arrangements can be made.
I'm sure it's suitable,
said Gerard. The guard preceded him into the room, lighting the lamps. Gerard saw a small, cluttered office, bookshelves, and a desk.
What is your name?
Marlowe Snail, sir.
The lamps were burning brightly now, and Gerard stared with dismay at the piles of paper and rolls of vellum around the edges of the room.
How long have you worked in the dungeon?
I was recruited as a child of 6,
said Marlowe, who looked to be in his late teens or early 20s. Gerard frowned.
Better than starving? Better than being hanged as a pickpocket, more like. At least you seem to know when to keep your mouth shut and you aren't afraid of Lemire.
As you say, sir.
Are you interested in working for me, Marlowe?
Marlowe looked momentarily confused.
I already do, sir. All the dungeon guards are part of the police.
Gerard nodded.
Obviously, I don't know much about my new command. Hopefully, I was right about this one keeping his mouth shut. What I meant is that I need a secretary. All this paperwork should be cataloged, preferably by someone who knows the history of the police better than I do.
Marlowe inclined his head.
I would be happy to assist, sir. As a matter of fact, I did something of the kind for your predecessor on occasion.
On very rare occasions, by the look of it.
Marlowe smiled crookedly.
Let me look through the papers first, and then I'll tell you what I want done.
Very good, sir.
Marlowe withdrew and closed the door. Gerard went to the desk.
Montpierre.
He would not have remembered the name of his predecessor had Silvio not mentioned it.
What kind of Schelt were you? Just a thug to strike at random? A rumor of fear to keep the Schelts obedient? Or were you smarter than that? Did you know what you were looking for?
On an impulse, he called Marlowe back into the room.
How many captains have you had in the last 5 years?
Marlowe thought for a moment.
I believe we've had 6, sir, and more than a dozen since I've served in the police.
Gerard shook his head.
More than 1 per year. And how did they all die?
Marlowe considered.
Perhaps half were killed openly in fights with the resistance. The other half...
He shrugged.
The police investigate, sir. They go into hostile places. Sometimes they don't come back.
Were any of these captains killed in non-hostile places? I mean, were they murdered?
Marlowe hesitated.
Captain Rannon was shot in the streets of Dragon's Eye 2 years ago. Captain Howell died in a brothel in CERN, presumed poisoned, last year. Captain Ando died in his bed in Dragon's Eye. No one can say what took him, except that he was not ill a few days before.
He paused. Gerard was pacing the room, his black tufted tail twitching.
Am I distressing you, sir?
No. What about the police themselves? Are they dying in unusual numbers?
Marlowe looked uncomfortable.
Being in the police is a dangerous job, sir.
You seem to have survived.
I'm careful, sir.
Does anyone leave the police alive, Marlowe?
There is Arundel, sir. He was our captain 4 years ago.
Gerard was surprised.
One of Silvio's lieutenants. I did not know. And he was transferred into the Sea Watch.
Marlowe nodded.
Some viewed it as a promotion.
What happened to my immediate predecessor, Montpierre?
He disappeared on Major Minor. He was part of a registered hunting party, so no investigation was made.
Gerard snorted.
Was he really hunting? Or was he looking for something?
Marlowe shrugged.
Montpierre was a very private person. He did like to hunt. His family was from Major.
Gerard nodded and dismissed his new secretary. He sat down at the desk and began sorting through the stacks of paper. By the time Gerard returned to his room in the inn, it was well past midnight. Thessaline had waited for him. She was sitting beside the fire in the peculiar stillness that came over her when she was composing music in her head. Her face cleared as he entered.
You shouldn't have waited up.
I'm a minstrel. We're supposed to be able to harp all night.
Gerard stripped off his coat, glad that she could not see the bloodstains.
I've been killing Xavier. A couple of Krishnards, too.
Thessaline's white eyes grew luminous and sad.
You saved them from Lemire, then?
Gerard sighed. She knew him too well.
I doubt that's how they saw it.
They will see everything on the shores beyond the world, and they will understand.
Gerard shook his head.
I'm not concerned with the shores beyond the world just now, only with Major Minor, and my last predecessor in the police, Montpierre. He disappeared there. I think he was looking for Skytown.
Thessaline strummed her harp thoughtfully.
So you really think Skytown exists?
Gerard shrugged.
The priestess seemed to think so. Montpierre did too, I think.
Gerard told her about Marlowe's snail and what he'd said. He also mentioned Silvio's parting words. Thessaline shook her head.
What is wrong with him? Doesn't he see that you are both on the same side?
Gerard hesitated. He'd never told Thessaline all the rumors about Silvio.
They say he clawed his way up from the slums around Slag on Cern.
He watched Thessalin's face. The harbor town of Slag was perhaps the roughest and ugliest in Wefravain. The town had a reputation for brothels that catered to all tastes, and foxlings were especially prized because of their fine features and childlike proportions. Gerard could have pitied any such creature, except that Silvio had a way of dissipating pity as a summer sun dissipates dew. In Gerard's experience, Silvio would have been more likely to sell such children than to have been one. Thessalin was quiet for a moment.
Poor thing.
Gerard made a face.
No one can say whether it's true, as he seems to have killed nearly every Schelt who knew him as a child.
He hesitated.
However, it might explain his taste in clothes.
Gerard.
He's cruel, Thessalin. He hasn't the honor of a mudleech.
And you are intimidating, especially to someone like that.
Gerard drew a hand across his eyes.
Alsair can talk of nothing but eviscerating him since the business with the foam. I don't want to talk any more about Silvio Lemire.
She smiled.
Then let's not. Judging from what Marlowe Snail had to say, you've taken on a dangerous job, love.
Frightened for me?
Thessalin stood and walked to him, fearless now that she'd memorized the layout of the room. Gerard took her in his arms.
My dear, you could vanquish hydras and cross the deserts of fire.
Her boundless optimism was one of the many things he loved about her.
You have more faith in me than I do.
Gerard started to kiss her.
I want to hear about the police. What's got you so curious about Montpierre and Major Minor?
They curled up on the bed, and he told her about the office and the stacks of paper.
Something wasn't right in that office. Every document I found was dated at least 3 red months ago. Montpierre only disappeared last month. Judging by what I saw, he kept meticulous records. I even found evidence of a filing system. But nothing was in order.
You think someone searched the office?
Yes. I think someone stole a lot of paperwork. They hoped I'd confused ransacked with messy. I went through the fireplace, and I think a lot of paper was burned there recently. I found a bit that had fallen under the grate, a list.
Gerard took the charred fragment from his pocket and read it to her.
Skytown. Misnomer? Teacups. Tea leaves? Who is Gwaine at the center of the web? Cowry catchers, the winged wolves. Major Minor, the diving spiders.
Thessalin grinned.
Cryptic.
Gerard could tell that her minstrel's mind was already making poetry or prophecy of it.
Yes, but that list meant something to Montpierre, and I'm going to find out what.
Chapter 5. A Traitor and a Child.
Major Minor is home to all kinds of creatures that have been eradicated from most other parts of Wefravain. The exact nature and habits of these creatures are kept secret by the gamekeepers of the island in order to preserve the mystery of the place. The diving spiders are one of the more feared elements of Major Minor. They can grow a quarter of the size of the average griffin, and they make their homes in coral reefs. The kings of Major Major claim that the spiders prevent the island's inhabitants from escaping by sea. Small boats are easy prey in the spider-infested reefs. Air traffic is forbidden and monitored from the watchtowers around the island. The only safe and legal approach is overland from Major Major during low tide. The journey requires a skillful sand pilot with a knowledge of the tidal flats. Ironically, many of these sand pilots are fawns from Major Minor, who receive a level of protection and trade goods for their services. Gwaine, The Truth About Wyverns.
Gerard arrived in his office early the next morning. A new guard stood at the dungeon entrance. At the desk in the anteroom in front of his office, an older Schelt, whom he took to be a warden, was sleeping. Gerard pretended not to notice.
I want you to bring the prisoners to me one by one.
The warden jerked awake and blinked up at him. Gerard was still talking.
But first, send someone out to get hot food, something that smells good, something a fawn would eat.
He looked down at his officer's bewildered expression.
That means no fawn meat,
he said, in case it wasn't clear.
Prisoners?
Repeated the warden. Gerard could smell alcohol on his breath.
Yes, prisoners, the ones who arrived yesterday. Their cell is a bloody mess. I ought to know I made it. Get food, get prisoners. Can you handle that?
In spite of appearances to the contrary, the officer had the good sense to nod and lurched to his feet. Gerard strode past him into his office.
I was here late last night. They probably didn't expect me this morning.
He sat down to another stack of papers, this one a catalog of Schultz the police had interrogated 6 years ago. These were the police of Gerard's memory, the ugly stories he'd heard growing up.
They don't seem to have been as active in recent years. Is it because they had more humane captains? Or have the constant assassinations been slowing them down?
He suspected the latter. Sometime later, one of the younger guards came in with a tray of steaming meat pies from a street vendor. Gerard thought that at least one of the little pies looked suspicious. He ate that one, judged the rest suitable, and sent the guard for the first prisoner. They had languished all night in the dark, without food or water, with the bodies and blood of their comrades all around them. They'd been in the hold of a ship for 4 days before that, during which time they'd had nothing but a little water.
I ought to be hungry enough and frightened enough by now.
The first prisoner they brought him was the little Gazumel. His hands had been tied, which annoyed Gerard.
Do they think I can't protect myself from a starving, unarmed fawn, barely grown and half my size?
He had straightened the office, put all the loose paper in drawers. The place was clean and well lit, and it smelled pleasantly of food.
Sit,
he commanded the fawn. The chair in front of the desk was small, uncomfortable, and plain, while the desk chair was an angular throne of leather and blocky wood. Gerard had no doubt it had been designed to intimidate. However, he preferred to stand. He loomed over the unfortunate Gazumel, whom he judged to be no older than 14.
What is your name?
The fawn said nothing. He had the dark hair and olive skin of his race. He was wearing nothing but a white linen shirt, much stained. His fur, too, was matted with half-dried blood. He stared straight ahead, trembling like a rabbit in the claws of a hawk. He was so bony that Gerard wondered whether he'd been getting enough to eat, even before he was captured.
You have a choice,
said Gerard quietly.
You can eat some food, talk to me, and leave here alive. Or you can refuse to talk to me and I'll give you to my officers and their griffins.
Griffins had a cat-like love of sport. The Gazumel shuddered. Gerard thought, belatedly, that he should have brought Alcer along for this exercise.
Or perhaps the temple is running short of sacrifices this month,
he continued.
The gods seem to have an insatiable appetite for tender young things. They love variety, and they can't have enjoyed many of your kind.
The fawn leaned forward suddenly and retched. He had nothing but bile in his stomach, and the spasms racked his small body like a hand wringing out a rag. Tears of pain and terror stood in the corners of his eyes against his long lashes. Gerard didn't think he'd ever seen anyone so frightened, and the sight made him feel ill. He walked around behind the chair so that the prisoner could not see his face. He leaned close to the fawn's quivering ear and put claws into his voice.
My point is, once you leave my office, your fate is sealed. If you want to live, now is the time to tell me.
I don't know,
wailed the fawn, his voice breaking.
You don't know your name?
I don't know where Skytown is. I've never been there. They never told me. I've only worked on a ship, that's all. I only worked on a ship.
Gerard wanted to put an arm around his shoulders and give him a meat pie. Instead, he said,
I haven't asked you where Skytown is. I repeat, what is your name? I already know the answers to some of my questions, so you'd better not lie. The police have many resources.
In truth, he had no idea of the answers to any of his questions, but he'd seen his father use this technique with diplomats, often to good effect.
My name is Pater,
said the Gazumel faintly. Gerard cut off a little wedge of one of the pastries and gave it to him. The fawn devoured it, hiccuping through his tears. His fingers were clumsy, and Gerard saw that his wrists had been tied tightly enough to cut off the circulation. He resisted the urge to cut them loose.
How old are you? How long did you work on the ship? Who ran it?
Pater was 12.
So,
thought Gerard,
I have stooped to tormenting children.
Pater had worked on the ship for 2 years. He had been born on Masia Minor, and the pirates had offered him an opportunity to escape the fate of all but the craftiest fawns on that island.
It is forbidden to kill fawns under 10, but most are killed by a hunting party before they reach 30. My mother wanted me to join the pirates. She wanted me to live.
So, when he turned 10, Peter was bundled off in the dark to join a pirate ship. Gerard interrupted him.
Which side of the island did you sail from?
The waters around Asia Minor were considered all but unnavigable due to the combination of reef, diving spiders, and rough sea. Peter shook his head.
I don't know. I don't understand how we got there.
He had been taken into a tunnel in which he and several other fawns traveled for what seemed like more than a day. They had surfaced in a place that he did not recognize, walked to a beach he did not know, and found a rowboat waiting to take them to a ship. The pirate ship Foam, which Gerard had helped to capture. In the next 2 years, the ship had taken 7 prizes, 4 merchant vessels, and 3 temple treasure ships laden with offerings for Leclock.
The pirates target temple ships,
said Peter.
We met many merchant ships that we left alone. I never learned how the captain decided which to attack and which to let go.
The captain was a Xavier Fawn, and Peter had never heard him called anything except captain. Gerard had killed this person himself and remembered the fight on the deck with the ship pitching and burning all around them. Samara and Mel had been his second in command. Gerard questioned Peter closely about the tunnel and the beach from which he had sailed, but Peter had nothing to add, although he tried.
No light was permitted in the tunnel. It was tall enough for us to stand, and we walked very rapidly for a very long time.
Could the fawns of Asia Minor have dug a tunnel to another island?
It seemed utterly fantastic.
Or did they sail from some secret cove on Asia Minor? Could the tunnel have been a ruse to impress and confuse recruits in case they were ever caught?
He even wondered whether the entire story were a prefabrication, memorized for such an occasion. He couldn't bring himself to believe it, though. The young Gazamel's desperate, frightened eyes and babble of information seemed authentic. Throughout the tale, Gerard handed him pieces of pastry, and at one point he gave him a large mug of water, from which the fawn drank greedily. At last, Gerard cut his hands free. When Peter had told everything, and was beginning to repeat himself, Gerard went to the door and told the guard outside to bring a tunic and pants.
I don't care where you get them,
he said in response to the guard's question.
If we don't have any here, buy them on the street. Give them to this prisoner and put him in a cell by himself. Give him a meal and all the water he can drink. And when it's full dark, release him.
Gerard wasn't sure where Peter would go or how he would get there. That wasn't Gerard's problem, but releasing him in daylight on Leclock would be cruel. Gerard would at least give him the small comfort of darkness to find his way to safety. He glanced over the food tray.
If they all talk to me at this rate, I'll have to send for more.
However, his worry proved premature. The next prisoner was a Xavier of perhaps 25, Gerard's own age. He had the marble stare of a Celt who has already consigned himself to die. No amount of threats or promises could induce him to utter a word. At last, Gerard walked around behind the chair, took the fawn's head quickly in his hands, and broke his neck with one snap. He'd seen cooks on Holivaris do this to fawns intended for the pots. It was harder than it looked. In spite of his threats, Gerard had no real intention of giving any of the prisoners to griffins or wyverns. Gerard had no better luck with any of the next 4.
They have been well schooled,
he thought, and found that he respected them immensely. The 6th was a Xavier fawn with shifty eyes and twitching fingers. Gerard disliked him at once, but the fawn clearly had no intention of dying.
What will you give me for what I know?
He asked as soon as they were alone. Gerard offered him the same thing he'd offered the others. The fawn shook his head.
That's not good enough. The resistance will kill me if your own Celts don't.
Gerard was surprised.
If you tell me what you know, my Celts at least will not kill you.
The fawn looked at him narrowly.
You're new at this.
You're the first to notice. You think so?
Let me tell you something you may not know about the police, Captain. They never let anyone go. Accidents happen to Celts they release.
Gerard decided to try a new tack.
You're right. I am new. I do things differently.
The fawn looked almost sorry for him.
You may want to, but you won't. The police are controlled by more powerful forces than you. Now, I repeat, I want protection.
Gerard thought for a moment.
I will arm you before I release you, and I will give you sufficient cowries to buy passage off Lecklock.
The fawn looked surprised.
He wasn't expecting me to acquiesce so quickly or so completely. I've already given more than he had any right to expect.
I want an armed escort. I want a signed document from you.
Gerard shook his head. The prisoner argued weakly for a little longer, but it was already clear that he intended to talk.
We both know I'm not going to tell you my real name, so why bother making one up? I'm a smuggler. I have many clients, but the Resistance was never one of them until recently. They wanted to transport certain materials to and from CERN and Haplag.
Materials?
The smuggler shrugged.
Passengers sometimes, but also things in boxes. I never knew what they were. I never asked. I never went to the Great Islands, just the smaller holdings, mostly numeraries.
Gerard nodded. Tiny islands, with no appreciable Grishnard population, sometimes had no names, only numbers. They were called numeraries.
So far, you're not telling me anything worth the price I'm paying.
The smuggler held up a hand.
It's true, I don't know where Skytown is, or even if it exists. I don't have a list of names to give you, or secret code or maps. However, I do have one name, and it's an important one. Gawain.
Gerard leaned forward.
At the center of the web.
The smuggler grinned.
I see you've heard of him.
Perhaps. Continue.
I don't know whether he's their leader, but I think he might be. I transported him once. I saw him.
Gerard looked skeptical.
The Resistance is secretive. Why should I imagine they introduced you to this person? Trustworthy individual that you so obviously are.
Oh, they didn't introduce us. I don't think I was intended to see him, but the passage was rough and longer than expected. He came on deck rather sick, and I got a look at him. He's a Shavier fawn about my height with light brown hair, brownish eyes, and gray-blue feathers.
Gerard shrugged.
That description would fit any number of fawns in Weffervane.
The smuggler smiled, like a gambler playing his trump.
But Gawain is supposed to be half Grishnard.
Gerard's eyes widened. Normally matings between panons, shelts with paws, and fawns, shelts with hooves, produced no offspring. Some claimed that very rarely a child could result, but Gerard had never seen one.
Half Grishnard,
repeated the smuggler.
And I believe it. He has dew claws above his hooves. I saw them, and that's how I know he was Gawain.
Chapter 6. Mystique.
The relationship between the Temple Sea Watch and the Temple Police is ambiguous. Traditionally, the leader of the police is ranked as captain, so that the admiral of the Sea Watch, and his lieutenants for that matter, outrank him. This reflects the importance of the sea in the politics of Weffervane. However, the police are the administrators of the priestess's will on land, and they receive their orders directly from her. Gawain, the truth about wyverns.
Gerard left the temple complex feeling bleak and vaguely dirty. He'd spent the day questioning and executing Shelts whose courage he could not help but admire.
More than any Shelt I've met in the Sea Watch or police.
He was grateful when Alcere swooped down into the street in front of him.
I need to ride.
He said, without so much as a greeting.
Where?
Anywhere.
Soon they were climbing, up over the dome of the temple, over the streets and markets of Dragon's Eye. Lecklock was the smallest of the great islands, and Alcere climbed rapidly to a point where they could see half the island. There in the harbor stood the 3 tall ships of the Sea Watch, the Fang, the Darkwind, and the Sea Feather. The Fang was Silvio's flagship, and the place where he lived, even when he was not on assignment. Gerard had heard that when Silvio took over the Sea Watch 8 years ago, he wanted to gild the entire ship silver.
Vain fool.
Gerard could not think of a more unfortunate color for a ship chasing a prize. Apparently, even Silvio's supporters thought so, and he'd been persuaded to paint the ship scarlet and gold instead. Gerard had to admit that no amount of gaudy paint could hide the beauty of the vessel, an elegant, three-masted ship with 4 decks and a bronze wyvern figurehead gleaming with gold leaf. Like many ships in Weffer Vane, she had a slave deck with rowers. She had been Gerard's home on and off for the last year. However, he'd learned today from Marlowe Snail that he had a house in town, the traditional residence of the captain of police. Marlowe had been careful to add that the last 3 captains had chosen to purchase their own lodgings, and the house had not been used in many years. Gerard knew that the last 3 captains had been younger sons of wealthy families. He suspected that the house was a humble affair, but it would get Thessaline out of the inns, where she was continually badgered for performances. It would also give Alcere a safe place to sleep. Silvio had a low tolerance for griffins aboard ship. The nest box where he'd put Alcere doubled as a storage room, and was so cramped with boxes that Gerard feared a crate might fall on Alcere during rough weather. The house would also mean that Gerard would never again be a permanent resident of Silvio's flagship, a prospect that lightened his spirits considerably. He told Alcere all this as they flew, as well as the story of the traitorous smuggler and the frightened Gazumel youngster. Alcere listened with uncharacteristic silence. When Gerard finished, he laughed.
So that's what really happened.
What do you mean?
Oh, you'll never believe what they're saying about you in the streets. The local griffins are all gossiping about it, and half of them have heard it from their masters.
Gerard could feel his tufted ears prickling.
Heard what?
Alcere imitated a fluting girl's voice.
That new captain of police is a terror. They say he took a pirate ship single-handedly and...
Single-handedly? I had 6 capable...
He hacked the pirate captain to pieces and took his tail as a trophy.
Took his...
It gets better. Last night, you killed half the prisoners in a rage as soon as the priestess put them into your custody. The cell was blood from floor to ceiling.
That sounds like a Silvio rumor.
The accusation that he killed the prisoners because he lost his temper, not as a calculated move, irked him. Alcere was choking on giggles.
Then you cooked them up and fed them to their hungry comrades as bribes the next morning.
What?
You so enjoy your new job that you wouldn't even let the other police help you question and kill them. Prisoners went into your office alive, and one by one, the bodies came out. You had their tails made into a wreath and mounted the heads on your wall.
Gerard was momentarily speechless.
They say you're a prince with a dark and tragic past.
Well, that at least is true.
They say you committed some terrible crime for which you can never go home. The ladies are all cooing about you, tall, dark, and oh so dangerous.
Gerard could not understand how any lady could both believe these stories and find him attractive.
Are they all mad?
Alcere shrugged.
I think it's the mystique of the police combined with your own that's prompting the rumors.
I don't have a mystique. I'm very non-mysterious.
Oh, but you do, master of mine. You don't know it, but you do. It makes Schultz either love or hate you.
Gerard couldn't argue that. His fellow sailors had liked him well enough to elect him their watchmaster. They were the only thing he would miss about the Fang.
I suppose the gossips can think whatever they like, as long as they respect me. A little fear won't hurt.
He sighed. The sun was setting. He was tired, and he had one more chore this evening.
I want to get something to eat, and then we need to pay a visit to the Sea Feather.
Why?
Because I need to talk to Lieutenant Arundel. He was the captain of police 4 years ago. And as far as I can tell, he's the only one in the last 10 years who's left the police alive.
You have been listening to The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton. Copyright Abigail Hilton. Cowry Catchers is an illustrated podcast. Artwork for this episode was created by Sarah Cloutier. To view these illustrations, and to learn more about this world and its author, visit the website at www.cowrycatchers.com. This podcast included the vocal talents of
Nathan Lowell
as Gerard, Kimmy Alexander as Thessalyn,
Chris Lester,
as Gwaine,
Ryan Stevenson,
as Alsair,
Hughes Hilton,
as Marlowe,
Justin McCumber,
as Pater,
James Durham,
as the Smuggler,
Rish Outfield,
as a temple guard. Sound effects for this podcast were generously provided by SoundSnap and the Free Sound Project. The intro music for this podcast was Grace by Beth Quist. The outro music is Moonlight Flowers by Amoeba, both licensed with permission from Magnatune.net. This episode also included music by Diana Rowan, licensed with permission from Magnatune.net, Digital Juice, and Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. This is a standard copyright now. This podcast is provided for your personal enjoyment only. You can download and archive the episodes for your personal use. You may not re-upload, mirror, or publicly redistribute the audio files, nor can you alter, remix, or create derivative works.
A question ringing, a taste of honey, sirens singing, solitude understand. I don't think I can stand up in.
When Ishmael Horatio Wong is orphaned by a flitter crash, he must make some hard decisions about how to survive in a company-owned universe. With limited time and fewer options, he lands a job as the newest hand on the solar clipper Lois McKendrick, and learns the importance of a good cup of coffee. If you're a fan of space opera but always wanted a story with a different kind of hero, meet Ishmael Wong. He isn't the lost son of an overthrown monarch. He isn't the captain of the ship. He's not even an officer. He's not rich or tall or handsome. He's not particularly bright. He's just an average guy trying to make his way in the universe. In the tradition of Have Spacesuit Will Travel and Farmer in the Sky, Quarter Share begins the story of profit, confusion, and the heroism of day-to-day in the deep dark. Set sail with Ishmael, Pip, Beverly, and the rest of the crew of the Lois McKendrick in Quarter Share, a trader's tale from the golden age of the solar clipper, a new science fiction novel by Nathan Lowell. Find it on podiobooks.com today.
Hello, this is 2025 Abby, and I'm recording again at my kitchen table. My neighbor has taken this moment and time to redo his fence. I don't think that the noises he's making are actually going to carry through to this microphone, but if there's a little bit of rattling in the background, I apologize. You're sitting with me at my kitchen table, and my neighbor is working on his fence. So, this episode, summaries. I forgot that I did summaries. I completely forgot. I wonder if I did them in the other books. I don't remember, guys. So yeah, I put little summaries in front of each episode. When you are airing podcasts once per week, and especially at the time when I released this, there was no way for people to go and mainline the story early if they were listening like in real time as I released it. That there was literally no way for people to get episodes faster than once per week. In that case, people kind of liked those summaries. They're a little bit annoying if you are listening straight through. And of course, if you go and buy the audiobooks, they're not going to have summaries in them. So this story, I definitely started in media res. Oh, there goes my neighbor working on his fence. I hope that's not very loud for you. I'm guessing you're going to barely hear it. Anyway, yeah, this story starts in the middle. And you are supposed to be torn about who to root for. It's definitely a story about the bad guys. But if you feel like you're not quite sure who you're supposed to root for, if you feel like Gerard is trying to be good or honorable, which are not necessarily the same thing, but blindingly unaware of the ways in which he is not, that's on purpose. And it will become more clear who you might want to root for as the story goes on. Some thoughts I had as I was going through this, I forgot until he spoke that Justin McCumber voiced Pater. And his voice kind of hit me like a punch because I had just forgotten. Justin McCumber was one of the founding members of the Dead Robot Society podcast. It was a podcast about writing and storycraft that was running at this point in time and is still running, in fact. And it was originally hosted by Justin, Ryan Stevenson, and Terry Mixon, all of whom I asked to voice characters in Cowry Catchers. Ryan had by far the biggest role. He plays Alcere. Justin just did a few bit parts for me, and Terry, I believe Terry voiced Pharrell. We'll see when we get there. But Justin passed away quite unexpectedly at a young age, and he is one of 3 people that I know of who worked on this podcast who are no longer alive. There were 40 voice actors, and obviously additionally some artists and musicians who all contributed work to this podcast. The one that most people will remember is P.G. Holyfield. He passed away at 46 of a lightning-fast bile duct cancer. He was just kind of there, functioning normally, and then gone. And that was, gosh, I'll look up the dates when we come to his character. He voiced Leopard Maja. Justin McCumber also passed away at, I believe, the same age. I believe also 46. He had chronic health problems that he succumbed to, again, I think quite unexpectedly for his family and friends, a few years after the podcast finished. And then there was another fan who did some bit parts for the podcast, Ginger Shield. She went by Alundi. She passed away a year after the podcast finished in 2015 in a tragic and sudden car accident. And I think she was in her 20s, possibly early 30s. Anyway, 3 people that I know about of the 40 voice actors who are no longer with us. All of these people did great work. All of these people were extremely creative. Again, the Dead Robot Society podcast is still running, and I believe Veronica Giguerd is now on there. I think Terry Mixon is still there, and Veronica Giguerd is there. She did a number of bit parts for me in Cowry Catchers, and then I think Paul Cooley is also on Dead Robots. He did not voice any of these characters, but he was definitely a big piece of the fiction podcasting scene at the same time that I was creating these books. So yeah, check out Dead Robots and pour one out for Justin McCumber. That I forgot that he was in it until I heard his voice, and then was like, oh. Other things about some of these voice actors. Chris Lester, who voices Gwaine. Gwaine's pronouns are he, him, but Chris, now Kristen's, pronouns are she, her. Kristen has an amazing body of work, I think all published in the Metamor City story universe. I did have a phone conversation with her yesterday just to make sure that I was not misstating anything on here, and she gave this her blessing. She also still publishes under Chris Lester, so that's kind of a pen name for her now. The series that she would most like you to check out are her most recent books, published under L.C. Williams. So that's the letter L, the letter C, Williams. Those are on Amazon. You can check them out there. And I will do interviews with all the major voice actors from this show as we get further in and let them talk about what they're doing now. But I did think I should mention that Chris is now Kristen. James Durham voiced the smuggler. That's another person that I had completely forgotten about. He had quite a lush production, shall we say, of a book called Fetidus, which was a zombie noir novel that was coming out at the same time as I was doing Cowry Catchers. I tried to hunt down Fetidus online, or James Durham as an author. I tried to find like his author page. I could not find much. So I'm going to reach out to all of these people at some point and, ask how they're doing and whether they would like to come on the show and talk about what they're doing now. But I couldn't find him online. And I can't find that podcast anymore either, which is too bad. My recollection is that he did all of the music as well, that he's also a musician. Other things in no particular order. My brother Hughes voiced Marlowe, so I talk about Hughes from time to time. He's my only sibling. He lives nearby. His 2 children are the closest thing I have to kids. So if you want to know what he sounds like, that's Marlowe. Rish Outfield shows up in this one. He and Big Anklevich were doing a podcast called The Dunesteef, which was an audio fiction magazine. At the time I was releasing this, they were extremely entertaining commentators, had good rapport with each other. They're both still doing their own podcasts over on Patreon and regularly appear on each other's shows. So if you have lost track of them and would like to catch up, you can. And I'm sure I will have Rish on here at some point. Rish voiced an enormous number of books for me later on. So Rish is the voice of all of the Hunters Unlucky books. And he also did all of the Cormorant, which is the last book in the Pirates of Weffervane series. And he did dual narration for the Scarlet Albatross. And I want to say Jaeger Thunder. I think I still did dual narration in Jaeger Thunder. It's unfortunate that I can't remember for sure. Anyway, he and Lauren Harris did dual narration for me, and then he's also done a bunch of my books as a solo narrator. So this is probably the most significant voice actor connection I made while doing Cowry Catchers, but he only did like little bit parts in this book, and he's got a very flexible voice, so he sounds like a completely different person every time he shows up on the show. Kevin MacLeod, who did the music for this. His name is pronounced MacLeod, not MacLeod. Guys, I just confidently mispronounced all kinds of people's names. I mean, again, Sarah Cloutier is Cloutier, not Cloutier. I had seen these names in writing, had not ever heard them spoken, confidently mispronounced them. Last but not least, there's advertisements for various people's projects who worked on this scattered throughout this podcast. And I haven't decided whether to leave them all in, because some of them, like I'm sure I've got one for Fetidus at some point, and I'm not sure you can even find the book anymore. So I haven't decided whether I'll leave them all in, but some of them I will. So Nathan Lowell's Solar Clipper books, he had the little outro advertisement on this one, and I left it in. Those books are still quite popular. I would describe them as cozy space opera. Not a lot happens, but you still feel really engaged. At least if you want something not too stressful to read or listen to. He's got a massive following. He's on Amazon. He's got his own website. He's on Audible. He's on a number of platforms. You can certainly still pick up his books. I don't know if Audiobooks is not around anymore, and I can't remember if he mentioned a website. And I wouldn't trust any of the websites that get mentioned in the podcast proper from 2009. But his books themselves are definitely still around. You can still find them. That's all I'm going to say for right now. I will talk to you guys again after the next episode. This is Abigail Hilton, and you have been listening to the Pirates of Weffervane saga. Join me on Patreon for early episodes, long-form interviews, forum access, personal updates, and lots of artwork, including maps and species charts. That's patreon.com/Abigail Hilton. If you want the whole story now with no interruptions and some remastering of the early books for sound quality, you can find the entire series at shop.abigailhilton.com, along with all my other novels. The audiobooks are delivered by BookFunnel. Background music was Hidden Sky by Jamie Sieber. licensed from Magnatune.net, circa 2014. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers podcast is an audio adaptation of the Pirates of Wefervain saga, written and produced by Abigail Hilton. Original production copyright 2010. All rights are reserved to the author.